So I was kind of just winging it and basing myself off of the information that was provided to me without having actually had any personal knowledge. But now I do, and I'm giving it to you. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and this is In Medias Res, where we start in the middle of things. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, but it feels like we started in the middle of a chaotic world. So today I'm going to talk to you about some acting headshots. We're going to go into what they are, where to get your headshots done, what you should wear, what they should look like, and what to do about getting them printed. So I have my notes here in my laptop. You might see me glancing at my laptop for a little bit, but don't let it deter you. I know most of you either already know what a headshot is, or at least you have a pretty good idea. Some of you may have subscribed to my channel because of the acting stuff, while others of you have subscribed to me because of the Twilight stuff. But this is one of those videos that is definitely not Twilight related. But if you are an actor or actress inspired by Twilight, and maybe you want to be in some kind of Twilight movie in the future, hey, watch this video, because one of the most important things that you're going to need as an actor is a headshot. So let's get into it. What are headshots? I know most of you who have subscribed to me because of acting either already know what a headshot is, or at least have a pretty good idea. But for those of you guys who keep hearing this word and really want to get into acting but you have no idea what this means, well, let me tell you. A headshot is a picture of you from the shoulders up, at least most of the time, clearly displaying your face, looking at the camera so that casting directors, the people in charge of selecting the cast for a commercial, for a film, for a movie, they're the same thing, web series, music video, or a play, can see who is submitting to them or who is being submitted to them by an agency. You're going to see some examples on the screen of my own headshots. So you're going to see one here, here, again on this side, again on this side, and there. These are some examples of how you want to appear in your headshots, or what you are looking for in terms of receiving your headshots from a headshot photographer. I'm going to be saying that word a lot, and I apologize if this is annoying, but if you're an actor or if you're in the film industry in general, you may not get as bothered by that as non-film people do. And that in and of itself may sound really annoying, but you're welcome to stick around anyway, because who knows, you may find a new hobby. Your life might change after that. In the olden days, olden days being like pre-2010s and back, getting headshots done involved a seemingly much more difficult process of looking through phone books, directories, knowing someone who knows a professional photographer, and communicating via a landline. You may not know what that is, but let me show you. This is a phone. I'm from the 90s. We did use a phone growing up. You press the buttons just like on a cell phone, and then you call. And this is how you use it. This is a very old school phone, but more or less it would be something like this. Ready? Okay. Hi, yes, can I get headshots done here? I'm horrible at talking on the phone, clearly. More or less it would go something like that. So satisfying. So, in the olden days, people would use a phone, not the internet, to find out information about where they can get their headshots done. People would also communicate via snail mail. Snail mail being writing letters, sending it through the post office, and then receiving an answer, versus emailing, versus text message, versus Zoom calls and all that. Thankfully, the times have changed, and they have changed for the better in some ways. In other ways they have not, but in this way they have. So for us, it has gotten so much easier. The internet and technology have both made it very possible and way easier to fulfill our acting dreams. Getting your foot in the door is already hard enough. We don't need all of those obstacles. We really don't. Good news there. So in these pictures, you are supposed to be looking directly at the camera lens. And this is funny because in acting, you actually are avoiding looking at the camera lens. It's called spiking the lens or breaking the fourth wall. When you are filming, you don't want to look at the camera, but when you get your headshots done, you definitely want to be looking at the camera. It's not one of those creative shoots. It's not a glamour shoot. You're not trying to be a character in a storybook. The one thing you are trying to do is convey a message through the lens. We're gonna get into the outfits and the makeup and all of that in just a little bit. For now, just note that you are not going into this headshot photo shoot in character. You are not going in as someone else. You're trying to convey through your facial expression, whether it be an open smile, closed smile, a smirk, or just a serious face. You're trying to convey a message with both your eyes and your mouth so that they know that you have a range of emotions and you can on cue portray those emotions. That is what casting directors need from an actor. They need someone who can act the emotions that they need portrayed because of the script. So in acting, you're not looking at the camera unless it's directed on the script to do so. On a filming set, the camera is the invisible spectator, letting us, the audience, view the characters, their world, and the stories that unfold. In a photographer's studio, you want to look at the camera because you, your face, your eyes, are the ones showing who you are. These are not creative, artsy, playful, model type photos unless you're specifically a model and doing a model photo shoot, but instead they are professional, clear headshots that show casting directors simply what you look like. You are trying to look as you as possible while still trying to be an attractive version of yourself. And when I say attractive, I mean you did your hair in some way, whether you literally just put a product in your hair to show its natural texture, or you straightened it, or you did loose waves as you would normally do on a day-to-day basis. But we'll get into the hair and makeup in a little bit. So these headshots are the photos that either you or your agent, if you have one, will be submitting to casting directors so that they can consider having you audition for a role in their project, whichever project that may be. And this is important to note because if you have an agent, they know which headshot they are going to pitch to that casting director. If you have a film, they want to pitch your theatrical headshot conveying a certain emotion to the casting director versus a commercial type of headshot. This one is really, really important, and I will tell you from personal experience that you really need to think about how you are going to look when you go in and take these headshots for several reasons. You need to decide on whether your current hairstyle, hair color, eyebrow shape, and all of those details are going to stay the same, or if you think there's a chance that you're going to change some of these traits, because when you take your headshots, you are looking at paying at least $200 to $300, maybe more than that. So make sure that A, you set money aside to invest in this key factor in your acting career or modeling career, and B, the looks you get photographed with are looks that you can easily go into the audition with, so you can easily replicate or easily self-submit with. In other words, you don't want to go all out and get this crazy hairstyle that you absolutely can't replicate. That's not you. That's more of a glamour shoot. That's more of a creative shoot. If you normally just comb through it, for the guys watching, if you just comb, you put a little gel, or if you really don't put a lot of product in your hair, you're gonna want to do just a little bit because you want to go into the audition still looking as yourself, and you want to make it easy for yourself, because if you have a last minute audition, which most of them are, or a last minute callback, you don't want to look too different from the headshots that the casting directors have seen. They have called you in for an audition because they liked the way you looked. I must add, if you are someone who has like really curly hair but you want to have super straight hair in your photos, consider if it is a look you are willing to recreate consistently for auditions and if it comes pretty effortlessly to you, and vice versa. If your hair is super straight, but you for the audition want to have it super curly? Do you think that that's something that you can easily do pretty often? And is it something that you can maintain throughout time? These headshots are going to stay the same for a while unless there is a significant change, such as weight gain, significant weight loss, hair color change, significant haircut, any type of surgery, or you suddenly have a scar on your face, things that change your appearance very drastically. That is the moment when you are going to get new headshots. You also don't want to get a super intricate hairstyle that you likely won't be wearing often. If you can't replicate it, don't take those pictures of that hair color or that hairstyle if you're not going into the audition looking remotely similar to that. Okay, so I think we covered that pretty thoroughly, but if you guys have any other questions on details I may have missed, which I'm pretty sure I will miss something, just leave a comment down below. I'll try to answer your questions either in another video or in the comments section. You can also reach out to me via Instagram and I respond pretty quickly. I check my filtered messages pretty often just in case. That is through the handle mediasres_, which I will put here. Where to get your headshots done. This is really important as well. So you want to go to a professional headshot photographer. Some of you guys may not agree with me, but take it from personal experience that investing in a professional headshot photographer is going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you money, and in the end, you'll find yourself working jobs a lot faster. If you happen to know someone who is by chance a professional headshot photographer, such as your significant other or a best friend, and they have a legitimate photography business and they know how to edit, they know how to shoot, then by all means go ahead. I'm not saying you can't save money. If you have a friend who's an aspiring photographer with like little experience, or it's a sister or a cousin who has a nice camera on their iPhone and they don't know how to use it exactly the way that a photographer would, I mean, yes, those pictures look nice for Instagram and social media in general, but casting directors and agencies are going to know if they are professional or not. Most of the time, if you can get away with it, kudos to you, but I would not try it. I think it is possible that some of you guys watching do know someone personally who is a professional photographer and can very well execute those headshots for you for free or at a low discounted price. By all means, if that is the case, go ahead, save yourself some money and probably some time. But when you rely on a professional photographer, that is their livelihood, that is their business, so they have to deliver. But make sure it is with someone who is reputable, someone who has reviews on their website, someone who won't screw you over. The unfortunate truth is that some agencies do have their preference in terms of which photographers they would like their talent being you as an actor or model, where they would like them to go get their headshots. Really, agencies do this because they know that their talent won't be wasting valuable time and money paying hundreds of dollars for crappy headshots that will not even get you in the room for an audition because they were taken wrong and they're not actually headshots. It's really dependent on whether you have an agent or not, and whether your agency has a preference in a selection of photographers, or if they kind of just wait for you to go get your headshots done and then wait to see them and see if they like them. But I find it much easier to know that my agency has a preference on a select number of photographers. Pretty much anything that they provide, they will be okay with, versus me going to just anybody, paying $200 to $300, sending that to my agency, and then having them say, these aren't gonna work. I've just wasted about $300 in pictures that are not gonna be used, except for maybe Instagram and Facebook. So the next topic, and this is kind of like a subtopic for me, but I am so surprised to see people act the way they do sometimes. And thankfully I haven't experienced this in person, but I have heard some stories of people just being their diva selves. I mean, I don't know if everyone has a diva self, but apparently it's very common for actors and some people in general to not be nice to the people that they work with because they have an inflated sense of self. But your photographer, first of all, is a person, but they are also a professional, and this professional is in communication with your agency. So please, not only for the sake of human decency, obviously, but for the sake of your reputation and your career, please be kind and professional with your photographer. Word quickly gets around, not just among talent, but the filming community, especially if your photographer often works with talent that your agency also represents and sends them. Don't do that. Don't be a diva. Just don't be a diva, like, ever. There's no point, really. Like, no one likes a Karen. On that note, you also don't want to be late to your photo shoot. In 2020 especially, you want to be wearing your mask when you first meet your photographer. If this is the first time you're interacting with them, or if this is the first time that you're just getting back to taking headshots in general and acting in 2020. We don't know what things will look like next year, but you definitely want to be considerate for other people's health and maintain your distance. If you are a minor, you will be allowed to take someone with you. Just have your mom, dad, or guardian, whoever is there with you, to also be wearing a mask, to also be nice to them. I know it's hard, you can't control your parents, especially if they themselves are a Karen. If they don't care about the human decency part, just try to remind them that it will go back around. What goes around comes around. I must add, the mask thing will strictly be for when you first meet the photographer or when you first arrive. So while you're waiting, while they're doing your hair, you're going to be wearing your mask, right? Obviously, when they're doing your makeup and when they need to actually take pictures of you, you're not going to be wearing your mask, but they will. The makeup artist, the hairstylist, and the photographer, and anyone else in that room should be wearing a mask, at least in 2020 to 2021. We shall see what next year holds. Hopefully no zombies. Hopefully better things in general. But yes, casting directors need to see your face, so you shouldn't be wearing a mask in your pictures. That's obviously the whole point of you going. That is your visual pitch, to get yourself into an audition. Much like other places of work, film companies and studios are taking precautionary measures to minimize the risks in this line of work. They're doing so by requiring testing prior to filming, self-quarantine and clearance with mandatory mask usage when not filming, hand washing and sanitizing stations, among other safety practices. I recently did a commercial in Austin, Texas, and we had the works. We had specific instructions in our emails as to what time to arrive, and it was a limited amount of talent that was cast specifically because of COVID. Otherwise, they would have selected a lot more talent. We had to check in with someone at a socially distanced table, and we had to sign some papers. They had to take our temperature. They also provided a brand new N95 mask, but they had requested for you to go in with your personal mask from home, obviously. So once we were checked in, they provided a wristband to color code where you were supposed to be on set. While on set, you had to be socially distanced from everyone else, and we were also provided a face shield. So just know that if you're worried about your health when it comes to filming, the only time that you should not be wearing a mask is during filming, or if they're applying makeup. But before and after, in between, throughout most of the time, you are going to be wearing a mask. Unfortunately, but understandably. Taking it back to the studio, my agent sent me recommendations when I first signed with them in terms of photographers that they preferred to work with because of the style of shoot, the quality, the timeliness, and overall just the professionalism that these photographers have provided over time. I went with one photographer whose work is super beautiful, and I think that she just really knows how to capture the essence of someone. Her lighting and her editing are so elegant too, like they're not overdone, they're not cheesy, they're So I'm happy that I went with her. And for those of you who are not actors or models, I ask you to be understanding, learning about, or talking to a friend who is not in the entertainment industry, because after all, acting, although fun and exciting as it may be, is still a line of work. And not many people see the purpose or importance of things such as being photographed or auditioning in person or auditioning in general, but performing and entertaining makes up a large majority of the everyday indulgence in which the world relishes. We must keep working. We must keep working, and as the ever so famous line goes, the show must go on. Now going into what to wear for a headshot photo shoot, which is one of the most exciting things to talk about. You want to wear what we call jewel tones. What are jewel tones, you may ask? Let me tell you. Okay, so jewel tones are ruby red, citrine yellow or orange, sapphire blue, emerald, and plum. There may be one or two that I'm missing, but you can comment down below which ones have been recommended to you as jewel tones. These are the ones that I was suggested to wear for my headshot photo shoot, and I have tried a couple of these for 2 headshot photo shoots that I've had, and I had them within the same year because my hair color drastically changed. I needed to have my headshots updated even though they were pretty recent. What's the point of wearing jewel tones? So the point of wearing these colors specifically is that they naturally pop on camera. Even if they're not colors you would normally wear on a day-to-day basis, you still want to wear one of these so that the photo is eye-catching, so that something in the picture catches the attention of the viewer, whoever is holding the headshot, or more than likely looking at the headshot on the computer screen or cell phone screen. One of the biggest suggestions is to not wear patterns because they jump out on the camera and end up distracting the viewer when the central focus should be your face. You don't want to wear logos, you don't want to wear like zigzag, chevron, stripes, you want to avoid that. And if your shirt, blouse, dress, top happens to have those patterns by chance and you have nothing else to wear and it's like you gotta do this photo shoot, I would say at least try to make sure that those patterns are very, very minimal and you could probably avoid it. If you can get away with having the patterns below this point down, then that's fine. If your patterns go up from here and there's a lot going on, then do whatever you can to not wear that. Don't want a lot going on in your neck area as well. You don't want some crazy collars, crazy ruffles, crazy sparkles, anything like that. Don't wear anything crazy. For my first set of headshots, I wore this sheer plum button-up blouse with a very thin black bow, and I'll show you a picture here of what I'm talking about. Because this was the only blouse that I had taken with me that actually fit the jewel tone requirement, that fit the no pattern requirement, and was the minimally distracting collared blouse that I had with me at the time. Mind you, I feel like I need to add this for context. I wasn't close to home at all. I was about 6 hours away from home and I had to shop for this photo shoot. On top of that, this was my first actual professional headshot photo shoot, so I was kind of just winging it and basing myself off of the information that was provided to me without having actually had any personal knowledge. But now I do, and I'm giving it to you. I would say that that blouse was not a terrible choice. It was probably the best choice compared to everything else that I had. There wasn't a lot going on, but it still wasn't the best option I could have gone with for the first headshot photo shoot. Thankfully, in the end, it didn't work out with those pictures because of my hair color. I ended up changing it, so I went with something else entirely. Another tip in terms of your headshots, which is something that I am breaking today because I'm filming a video, is you don't want to wear statement jewelry. I'm sorry for those of you that love that awesome statement jewelry like I do sometimes, depending on what it is, like chunky stones or chains. And if possible, don't wear something that is so distracting that that becomes the focus of the entire picture. If I were to wear these earrings or this necklace to my headshots, they would have been rejected from my agency because of how big the pieces are. Maybe they're not too crazy crazy, as some would compare it to like large chunky jewelry or chains, like a studded collar or choker. But wearing something simple, just small enough to accent your neck or your ears, if you are going to wear anything, will be just right. Keep it very, very minimal. Try to exclude any weird shapes or anything that really pulls away from your face. I definitely had trouble setting my moon necklace aside for this because I'm so attached to it, but I knew it would be a little large to not notice. So for the first photo shoot, I wore these small fake diamond earrings just so that I could have something in my ears and I could appear more feminine. For my second headshots though, I didn't wear any jewelry whatsoever, which I kind of regret. I wish I had like some little studs in there. I just couldn't find them. So think ahead. Buy your little small accent minimal jewelry pieces if you want to wear some. Keep it simple. What should your headshots look like? Your headshots are going to look more or less the way that I'm positioned now. So you have mid-chest, sort of, your head. Ideally, your head would be in frame so that when you zoom in on thumbnails on websites like Backstage, for example, you get to focus on your face more. And when the casting director or director clicks on your picture, it actually zooms out and it shows how the picture was originally taken. Sometimes some photographers will shoot from the waist up. Just keep that in mind. If you're looking directly at the camera, playing around with subtle angles such as this and smiling, smirking, and smizing is going to make a huge difference in looking at your headshots, looking through them, making it less painless. If you're just standing straight, looking at the camera like this head on, you are going to end up with a ton of pictures that look the same, that convey little to no emotion, and you're not going to have the headshots that are going to put you in the room. I'm going to talk a little bit more on that, but first let me say that the printed version of your headshot is going to be matte, not glossy. So for printing purposes, if and when you get to do an in-person audition, always make sure you have a headshot ready with your resume. And your headshot and resume, first of all, will be the exact same size, and we'll get into that later. But your pictures have to be matte. Not glossy, not ultra glossy, just matte. How many headshots should you end up with for your websites? Your websites being Backstage, Actors Access, casting networks, among several others. You guys feel free to name those in the comment section down below. I can definitely use some more recommendations so that when I'm making videos like this, the amount of information that we have is accessible. You will need to have as many pictures taken as possible, meaning as many pictures as your photographer has allowed for the session in order to have a selection to choose from. But you will want to get with your photographer and let them know what you need, because they will be more often than not working with a limit. They will be working with a limit on the number of pictures that they're going to take for you, such as mine, who normally does, I believe, a 200 photo limit session. So beforehand, you want to give them a list, either an email, text, or writing about what you need ahead of time so that it saves time on the day of, and you will only have to remind them once about this list. The list should consist of at least the following 5 types of headshot poses. Ready? Okay. You're gonna want an open smile headshot. In other words, smiling with teeth. Second, you're gonna want a closed smile, so smiling without showing teeth. Thirdly, and it doesn't have to be in this order, but as long as these are included in your selection of photos, you will be good. Thirdly, you will have a smirk, which is different than a regular smile, because in a smirk, you can convey sneakiness, you can convey sultriness, however you want to take it, depending on your eyes, depending on the kinds of characters that you want to go for in films or movies or commercials, whatever it may be. A smirk being The point of a smirk is to be able to convey sneakiness, slyness. You know something that the viewer doesn't. You know something, and you want the viewer, the audience, to want to reach out to you and say, what do you know? What is it? Wipe that stupid smirk off your face. Fourth, you want a smizing picture. So the smizing term, I believe, came from Tyra Banks in her ANTM show, America's Next Top Model. And she does the thing, which looks crazy, but in pictures, believe me, it makes a difference. She goes, and you know, she like makes her eyes really pop. The point of that is that you're not smiling with your mouth, but instead you're smiling with your eyes, which is why it's called smizing. In your smizing picture, you definitely want to make your eyes the center of that. You are not going to be smiling with your mouth, but you're going to be conveying something with your eyes that is much deeper. That is not necessarily surprise or look at me, my eyeballs are huge, but there is more to the story that I want to tell you, and I'm trying to pull you in. Even though for some of you it'll be easier to have a range of emotions and expressions on a filming set, for some of us it's harder to bring that to a photo shoot because you're not saying any lines, you don't have backstory, all you have is your own personal backstory, and you have to smile as naturally as possible while your photographer may not be giving you those cues to do so. I was really fortunate enough to work with a photographer who knew what my agency would want to see. As she was taking my pictures, she would make me laugh and say, okay, let's bring it back down a little bit and tilt your chin down, and then a big smile. She does have a great personality for that kind of thing, to be able to remind the talent in front of the camera to smile or to not smile so big, but like in the nicest way possible and in the most natural way possible, which was great, and I love that. So if you can find a photographer who does that, that's awesome. If your photographer is not doing that, just remember to do it yourself without having the direction. But again, if your photographer is not giving you cues like that, they either have worked with like a billion people and they expect you to already know this kind of information, or your photographer is probably not a headshot photographer. For the first time that I got my headshots done, I had a hairdresser and a makeup artist, 2-in-1, who changed my look twice, as that was part of the requirement for what my agency needed. They needed me to portray two different looks. What I went with was a kind of loose waves, loose curls kind of look. Makeup stayed the same. The only difference was the hair changed and the outfit changed. I was able to show two outfits and two kinds of hairstyles, which I had loose curls and straight hair. I had them parted in the way that I normally would because I wanted to represent something that was most similar to how I normally would dress. In terms of makeup, and this applies to anybody and everybody getting headshots done, not just girls or women, obviously for kids you want just the teeniest, tiniest bit of color on the cheeks and maybe just clear lip balm to make sure the photos look awake and energetic. But please, please, please don't cake makeup on your kid's face if you are a parent or guardian watching this, because this is not a beauty pageant. Your kids are beautiful as they were born, and we don't want them to feel the need to heavily focus on their appearance, because I think this can be pretty detrimental to their childhood experience in general, but also if they genuinely do want to be in the acting world or modeling world. Please, if you have toddlers or preteens even, keep the makeup to a bare minimum. Please advise their makeup artist if someone else is doing it for them, or if you yourself are doing it and you're trying to save some money, just add enough color or gloss just to make them look awake and ready to be there. Focus on getting them to nail their smiling poses and their smirking poses, their serious poses instead, because children often show very forced smiles if they're told to smile. So work with them more on that beforehand, enough to help them feel comfortable when getting their headshots done. And if neither the headshot photo shoot nor acting is something they don't want to do, please don't make them do it. If acting is your thing, keep it your thing, but don't make them do it if they don't want to. That's definitely not been my upbringing at all. My family is not at all acting oriented. I mean, they definitely had no interest in that. That was kind of my own thing. For young adults or people in their late teens and adults, you can consider a little bit more makeup, although you want it to look as natural as possible with a little oomph to your facial features. So go for that no makeup look. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about, but if you go on Pinterest, if you just literally Google it, no makeup look, it will tell you what kind of makeup to wear and how to wear it so that it looks like you're not wearing makeup, but you also look nice. Not sick or dead like I do. So if you're someone with acne prone skin, try to gently exfoliate at least a week prior. Moisturize with your own designated moisturizer, whatever works best with your skin. Drink lots of water, eat well, and for the ladies, try to schedule your shoot right after your menstrual cycle. I know some of you guys are going to be watching this like, what does that have to do with anything? But it does. This should be the time when your skin will probably look its best and you will probably feel your best too, unless you're just someone who's been graced by the gods and have perfect skin all the time. Good on you. For the rest of us normal human beings, that would be a good time to consider scheduling your photo shoot if you have the option. If you have some makeup that normally works really well for you and your skin, and someone else will be doing your makeup for the photo shoot, then maybe talk to your makeup artist if they're willing to work with your products instead of their products, because you may have some sort of reaction to their makeup, or if you genuinely just feel more comfortable wearing your own makeup. I highly recommend doing a face mask that you trust beforehand, maybe like the night before or the morning of, or maybe even 2 nights before. And if you're someone who normally gets waxed or get eyebrows threaded or lasered, get that stuff done at least 2 days before the shoot, if not maybe 3 to 4 days before. The reason I say that is because if you're like me, I normally get waxed and it often leaves my skin red and a little irritated. Then it starts to go down after like the first night, and then after that first day it starts to look nice. You don't want to do it too early before your photo shoot in case you're also like me and your hair grows exceptionally fast. But you want to do it early enough that you're not scrambling the last minute. Even though your photos will be getting retouched, or at least they should be getting retouched, you want to feel good about yourself when you're getting them done. So take care of the small little details, and if it helps, take a little handheld mirror so you can take off any lint or fuzzies in your hair, as I normally do. So you can check your eyes for any eye boogers or random lashes or eyebrow hairs, things like that. Blow your nose before the session if you have to. Get rid of stray brow hairs or stray lashes. Get those baby hairs under control, and buy a lip scrub and lip balm or Vaseline. Hydrate a ton and do not bite your lip, as this leads to chapped lips. I should know. In half of the session for me that first time, we went with a black pleather jacket with a plum button-up blouse, and in the second half of the session we went with a jean jacket with a low-key black and white striped shirt. Again, don't wear stripes, don't wear patterns. That was another mistake that I made, but thankfully we kind of got away with it because it was kind of, the headshots that were selected for the time actually ended up cutting out most of the shirt anyway. But that is why we're here today, so you can make better choices than I have made in life in general, but specifically for headshots. Go with a no pattern blouse, shirt, dress, jumpsuit, or romper, or t-shirt, whatever it is that you're wearing. The focus will be up here. Make sure to bring plenty of wardrobe choices, and even though we're not going to be seeing your body from the shoulders down, I would recommend putting together a whole outfit so that you feel well put together and so that you feel confident, as this will definitely translate well in your pictures, because you're not thinking about, oh, well, the top half of me looks fine, but it doesn't go with the rest of my outfit while they're taking your pictures. Just put together a nice outfit, and even though you won't be seeing the entire thing in your headshot pictures, you can always take some nice pictures for Instagram afterwards. Or if you decide to extend your session to a regular photo shoot after your headshots are done, then you're already good to go. Okay, so we are moving on to printing your headshots and where to get them printed. So if you have an agent, they will specify where you can or have to get them printed. If they don't, you can use Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, or a photo printer at home, which is probably preferred for most of us right now. The photographer can also print them upon request, and more than likely an additional fee depending on how they work. What size should your headshots be? This is a golden rule. And it was even more so before COVID struck and you could have in-person auditions. You want your pictures to be 8 by 10, 8 inches by 10 inches, literally. This means that even though the standard letter size is 8.5 by 11, you have to cut down the paper of the resume to be 8 by 10 and have it match your headshot. The resume will be attached to the back of your headshot, so if you have an agent, they will tell you which one you should have printed, which one they want you to submit to casting directors when you go into an audition. If you don't have an agent, however, then you will have to pick the best headshot you think will get you in the room. Print that one off 8 by 10 inches. Make sure your resume is printed off as well, 8 by 10 inches. Something you are going to need is a paper cutter or paper trimmer, and you can find one at Walmart, at Walgreens, Amazon. I bought mine for $20. It's very simple, but it will definitely come in handy. You are going to need it for matching up your sizes with your resume and your headshots. So how many headshots should you be printing? If you can afford it, have at least 5 copies printed in case you have to submit for multiple in-person auditions within a short time frame. This is especially applicable to people who live in, say, Los Angeles and New York. But for the rest of us who don't live in those large film industry specific areas, I would say having at least 3 or maybe 2 for the time being is good enough. A lot of the time now, we are submitting electronically, especially in 2020. During this year, it seems like we're saving a lot of money in this way. Not all the submissions will be done in person. Like I said, 99.9% of auditions are going to be done digitally, so via email, through Actors Access, casting networks, Backstage, or a similar site. If you don't have the upgraded subscription for these websites, they may charge you a fee per additional upload aside from the 2 free uploads that you get with Actors Access, for example. Make sure, this is really important, make sure you like your headshots, and please, please, please be wary of con artists who say that they're photographers and are really just there to take your money or there to ask for inappropriate pictures or inappropriate conduct. I know that the regulations are a little different right now during the pandemic, which means that even if you want to bring a friend with you to the studio to get your headshots done, you might not be able to because they want to minimize the amount of people that they interact with in order to avoid spreading the virus any further. The only exception to this is if you are a minor who needs to be accompanied by an adult. If there is a photographer who knows that you're a minor and is telling you that an adult cannot come with you, run. Do not interact with this person because this is more than likely, very possibly, a dangerous person. Always, always, always let someone know where you're going, someone that you trust. If possible, let more than one person know where you're going to be, why you're there, and if possible, pin the location of where this studio is supposed to be as well. Where you are parked, where the studio is, send those locations, have your location on for the people you trust, so that if anything goes wrong, we can track it. If they're open to it, they can accompany you and wait outside for you in the car. Okay, so to recap, you're gonna want to set aside a couple of $100s, which may sound like a lot, but if you have money to spend on other things, then you have money to save on your headshots, because your headshots are probably the biggest investment you're going to take in terms of acting, aside from acting classes and workshops and your demo reels. Setting your money aside and getting your headshots done by a reputable professional photographer, you're off to a great start if you have those two things going for you. Do your prepping before the photo shoot in terms of skincare, a balanced diet, moisturizing, drinking lots of water, dress to pop with those jewel tones, and work with your skin tone as well, depending on if you have a warmer shade or a neutral shade or a cooler shade. Work with the color wheel in your favor. Trust me. That is why I went with the color purple, because of the brown hair and the brown eyes, and I do have a medium neutral skin tone, so it could have gone either way, either cool or warm. I decided to do a little bit of both by using purple because of the neutrality in my skin tone, although I do think that it tends to lean more towards the warm side. But I went with purple because it's a mixture of red and blue. For the second part of that photo session, I went with red because I've been told that red tends to pop with my skin tone as well. So take note of the things that people tend to compliment you on, like, oh, that like yellow looks really good on you, or that green really makes your eyes stand out. Take notes of that, folks. It's gonna make a difference in those pictures, trust me. Another thing that is suggested is to bring a jean jacket or a leather / faux leather jacket, preferably a tan color. If you want, bring the black leather jacket, especially if you're trying to submit for certain types of character roles to convey that bad boy or bad girl look. No patterns, no logos, no chunky jewelry, no crazy necklines. Communicate with your photographer about what you need. Remember to have at least one open smile showing your teeth, one smile not showing your teeth, one serious pose, one smirk, and one smizing. So obviously you're going to be taking way more pictures than 5, or at least they should be taking way more pictures than just 5, but you want to definitely go through that circle throughout your session for both looks. If you have 2 looks, which is very highly recommended, don't just go with one look. I know it may cost an additional $100 or so, whatever the fee may be, it is worth having those 2 looks for reference. In terms of your makeup, go with a no makeup look. Have extra outfit choices to take. Take a suitcase, take a backpack, a bag, so that your photographer can help you choose the perfect outfit for your headshots. If someone else is doing your hair, ask for hairstyles that you would normally wear and that you find easily to replicate for an audition. When you receive the photos, retouched or not, label your photos such as Jane Doe _ smiling _ teeth, Jane Doe _ smiling _ no teeth, and so on, so that you have a reference point when looking through your pictures, because you are going to be looking through these photos several times. If your agency is like mine, they are probably going to ask you for your favorites. While your agency wants you to look your best, they are going to end up choosing the photos that they think are most marketable, but they also want you to feel comfortable. And one thing that is going to save both of you guys time is helping them look through your own photos. So when you receive that link, or when you receive that digital file or that USB, that CD, whatever it may be, one of the funnest things to do is to look through those photos and be able to choose your favorites. Then you can just suggest your favorites to your agents if you have agents. If not, then you in the end get to make all the choices. I strongly recommend having a paper and pen or pencil to write down the file number of the photos so that you can list the ones that you like and scratch out the ones that you absolutely freaking hate. That way you can easily go back to the ones you really like and suggest those to your agent. This will end up making it faster for everybody. In the end, you will be having them go straight to your best photos in order to approve them and send them back to your photographer for retouching. Create a folder for the photos you receive. Label your folders. For example, headshots August 2020, headshots October 2020, or headshots January 2021. Whatever the date may be, as this will help you in the future to look through your headshots and use those dates to look at the number of auditions you had during those times to see if these headshots actually worked or didn't work for you. So if you had maybe 1 or 2 auditions throughout the 1 year that you had certain headshots, but then you changed those headshots because something in your appearance drastically changed, but you ended up having maybe 15 auditions in the span of 6 months or a year, then you definitely want to take notes of what the difference was in those headshots and why these worked versus the other ones did not. Make a separate folder for your favorites, then for the final ones chosen by your agent, if you have one. If not, then you have the liberty of choosing the best photos for yourself. Once you have your headshots and your resume ready, resume being an entirely different video, you are ready to be submitted or to self-submit. Your headshots are your hook, your resume is your line, and your audition is your sinker. Let's go fishing, boys. Your video and or voice reel in the beginning of your acting career will probably be non-existent, but that's okay, because in another video I'll be talking about what that process entails and how this makes your submission a lot stronger. But you have to start somewhere, and you literally can't go to the next step in the process without getting your headshots first. I mean, you could, but it's not going to go very well because you still have to put a face to the name. So the easiest thing, the first thing you have to do as an actor or actress is to get your headshots done. Before I end this video, I just want to say that if you're planning to go on a huge weight loss kick, or if you're planning to gain a lot of weight, something that will easily translate on camera, probably go do that first. If you want to look a certain way before you get your headshots done so that you look that way when you are booked for these projects, you want to work on those things beforehand. You don't want to be like me, have this bright ass ginger hair, take $300 pictures, be considered for projects but not get booked, because that's a whole other thing. You'll end up getting work a lot faster and you'll be ready a lot faster if you already look the way that you would want to pitch yourself, if that makes sense. At least remotely similar. So again, you don't want to have platinum hair or white hair and then in person show up and you have super bright red hair or jet black hair. The casting directors want to see the same person that they saw in the picture. That doesn't mean that you have to look to a T exactly the same. No, you can definitely play up with colors, play up with hairstyle when you go into the audition, depending on the kind of role that you're reading for, but that in and of itself is another video. My point is that you don't want to look like an entirely different person when you go into the audition. They like something in your headshot and they want to see that person come into the room, and they want to be able to tell that that person has come into the room either wearing something else that is obviously not in the picture or have their hair styled in a way that the headshot does not portray. They want to be able to tell that it is that person that they called into the room that they saw in the headshot. I hope this video contained a lot of useful information to you. I am going to put a side-by-side comparison of the pictures that I first took when I went on this headshot photo shoot journey versus the second time that I got my headshots done. There's a noticeable difference, even though they're only a few months apart. There was a drastic change in my hair, so that is why I got mine redone within the same year. Normally, you would not have to do that unless, like I mentioned before, there is a drastic change that needs to be addressed. I really hope that you took notes while you watched this video, and I hope you found this video helpful with lots of useful information. Please don't forget to subscribe, comment your questions or comments, suggestions, like this video so other fellow actors have a better chance of finding it. Thanks for watching. Break a leg, guys.